As time went on, various people would leave comments. Subscribers would say, "This video is 3 fire emojis." And visitors who spend most of their lives on Reddit would say, "You think it's okay to joke about something like that, do you?" Poor Nathan had no steam left to answer. His patience had run out. YouTube's copyright detection system had spoiled his most recent video anyway. He wondered if he would ever be allowed to monetize his content. But I think he deserved his punishment. Don't you?
Hello comrades, really useful engines, troublesome trucks, and, let's be honest, those of you who are only watching because you're too hungover to turn off whatever the autoplay feature has thrown up. And welcome to what was meant to be a harmless, collective nostalgia trip for us aging millennials. But as became increasingly clear the deeper I got into writing it, is actually an analysis troubling enough to retrospectively ruin a great many of our childhoods.
Everybody knows there's no Santa Claus.
Now, for the few of you only learning about this beloved kids' TV classic for the first time, a quick introduction. Set on the fictional island of Sodor during the 20th century, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends follows the adventures of an ever-expanding roster of sentient, subservient and terrifyingly expendable steam locomotives. It began life in 1946, first appearing in a series of illustrated books by the British children's author Wilbert Awdry. An Anglican reverend by trade, Awdry dedicated much of his life preaching the gospel of an all-powerful, omnipresent and infallible deity, who holds the power of life and death, and paradise versus eternal punishment squarely in the palm of his hand and at the mercy of his judgment. Or, as he's better known, the Fat Controller.
Or Sir Topham Hatt if you're watching this in 2026.
That's about nonsense.
Nearly 40 years on, and with Wilbert Awdry's son Christopher now also on board, the original book series would be adapted and developed for television by Britt Allcroft. Staying mostly true to the source material, the first series of 26 episodes would premiere for ITV in the UK during October 1984, featuring the soothing Liverpudlian narration of California-based Brexiteer, second-best drummer in the Beatles, and former intergender bare-knuckle boxing aficionado Ringo Starr.
Mr. Starr, can I ask you to speak a bit more quickly, please?
No. This is as fast as I can go.
And would focus on each locomotive's attempt to navigate their own vanities, petty rivalries with their fellow engines, baffling infrastructural failings, and ever-looming threat of being decommissioned or scrapped, all in the hope of promotion, a new coat of paint, and above all else, proving their worth as
A really useful engine.
to their industrialist human overlords.
Now, as you can imagine, the naive, politically and socially unaware child me in the process of being brought up to never question authority within an authoritarian household was a pretty big fan of these early series. I had a Thomas the Tank Engine train set I spent a huge amount of time playing with and adding to. I'd spend many a break time in the school playground pretending to be characters from it. Had a bundle of VHS compilations. Hell, I even briefly became fascinated with real-life steam locomotives, leading to many trips to the National Railway Museum in nearby York. Admittedly, I've since come to learn that probably had as much to do with my being on the spectrum as it did my fandom of a show about personificated trains, but yeah, this isn't a video about my medical records. I'd quite like to keep some of that private, at least until the cunts at Plantier get their grubby mitts on it. Actually, I'm pretty sure there was something else my understimulated, dopamine-deprived child brain got a kick out of from this program, but can't quite put my finger on what. And the show clearly left a lasting impression on me too, as back in 2013, when my recently departed and sorely missed cat Iowa had a litter of kittens, we named each of them after Thomas the Tank Engine characters.
However, revisiting these early series through the eyes of a cynical, left-leaning 35-year-old, it doesn't take too long to notice that the moral compass of this, let's not forget, children's TV programme is often, at best, questionable, and at worst, warped, brutal, and bordering on traumatising. Now, I'm far from the first YouTuber to pick up on this for the purposes of a video essay, but I promise mine will hit far harder than... Actually, no, I can't claim that. It's going to have a load of jokes in it. Will be the most intelligent... Again, no. Some of the jokes will be incredibly juvenile. Will be the most funny and entertaining... Nah, that's too subjective to make any bold promises around. Will be the most recent... Yeah. Of all the Thomas the Tank Engine reviews on YouTube, this one will hit far more recently than any that have gone before. Yeah, let's go with that.
So, without further ado, let's let off some steam, head for the light at the end of the tunnel without getting bricked up inside it, and hurry to Wales to fetch Henry some special coal before Margaret Thatcher closes the last of the mines there, and take a look back at the neoliberal nightmare of Thomas the Tank Engine, Series 1.
Thomas is a tank engine who lives at a big station on the island of Sodor. He's a cheeky little engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome.
Can't complain so far, the very first scene being a rudimentary introduction to the title character. In fact, I reckon other global franchises could learn a lot from this.
James is a secret agent who lives in various exotic hotels throughout the world. He's a horny little agent with 6 bullets in his gun, short and thumpy with henchmen, short and thumpy with villains, and short and thumpy with women.
He's a fussy little engine too, always pulling coaches about ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. And when trains come in, he pulls the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. Thomas thinks no engine works as hard as he does.
Only for those higher up and more powerful to take all the credit. Well, get used to it, bitch.
He loves playing tricks on them, including Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all. Thomas likes whistling rudely at him. Wake up, lazy bones, why don't you work hard like me?
Although he does seem a bit of a prick, to be fair. Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas the Wank Engine, more like. Also, 2 minutes in and we've already been introduced to the steam-powered equivalent of those god-awful TikTok and YouTube pranksters you get nowadays.
One day after pulling the big express, Gordon had arrived back at the sidings very tired. He was just going to sleep when Thomas came up in his cheeky way. Wake up, lazy bones, do some hard work for a change. You can't catch me. And off he ran laughing. Instead of going to sleep again, Gordon thought how he could get back at Thomas.
Report him to HR, I'm guessing.
Unfortunately for Thomas, not only is the series set in the days before the concept of HR even existed, but his not even being a human would have rendered him ineligible for it anyway. And so it is that after a bad start to the day in which his fire won't start, and he ends up doing a pretty good impression of my wife first thing in the morning before her first nicotine hit, Thomas sluggishly stumbles into Gordon's vengeful trap.
Hurry up, you, said Gordon. Hurry yourself, replied Thomas. Gordon began making his plan.
I'll rip your fucking balls off and stuff them up your ass so that the next time you shit, you'll shit all over your balls.
Yes, said Gordon, I will. And almost before the coaches had stopped moving, Gordon reversed quickly and was coupled to the train. Thomas usually pushed behind the big trains to help them start, but he was always uncoupled first. This time Gordon started so quickly they forgot to uncouple Thomas. Gordon's chance had come. Come on, puffed Gordon to the coaches. The train went faster and faster. Too fast for Thomas. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't. Peep, peep, stop. Hurry, 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 laughed Gordon. You can't get away, laughed the coaches. Poor Thomas was going faster than he had ever gone before. He was out of breath and his wheels hurt him, but he had to go on. I shall never be the same again, he thought sadly.
So yeah, moral of the story, might is right, and sometimes using your superior size and strength to physically victimize and humiliate someone it's okay. Night-night, children.
At last they stopped at a station. Thomas was uncoupled, and he felt very silly and exhausted. Next, he went on to a turntable, thinking of everyone laughing at him. Well, little Thomas, chuckled Gordon, now you know what hard work means, don't you? Poor Thomas couldn't answer. He had no breath. He just puffed slowly away to rest and had a long, long drink.
Great, this is only the first episode and already the toxic work environment has driven our title character to drink.
He went home very slowly and was careful afterwards never to be cheeky to Gordon again.
Well, there you have it. Ringo's just told us that there's no chance of any friction or antagonism from Thomas towards Gordon ever again, so we'd be fools to expect any.
You sit on a throne of lies.
One day, Edward was in the shed where he lived with the other engines. They were all bigger than Edward and boasted about it.
Well, apart from Thomas, but I guess after that last episode, I imagine he barely even counts as an engine anymore, the weak commie loser.
The driver won't choose you again, said Gordon. He wants strong engines like us.
Man, I remember child me being something of a fanboy for Gordon, but the more of this I watch, the more I realise that this guy...
He's a complete bastard.
Happily though, Gordon et al. End up getting the smiles wiped off their faces when, in an inspirational twist, Edward cuts such a miserable and pitiful figure that the driver and fireman decide to take him out instead out of sheer pity.
Which is the only logical explanation I can think of for how James Corden keeps finding work.
Edward liked shunting. It was fun playing with trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a push. Then he would stop and the silly trucks would go bump into each other. Oh, they cried, whatever is happening?
Yeah, don't be fooled. Look at their evil, beady little eyes. They're gonna fuck shit up as this series progresses, mark my words.
Next morning, Edward woke up to find nothing had changed. Gordon was still boasting. You watch me, little Edward, as I rush through with the express. That will be a splendid sight for you.
Do you know, I'm actually starting to wonder whether this big blue bellend was our generation's Andrew Tate.
Presently, he heard a whistle. Gordon was very cross. Instead of nice shining coaches, he was pulling a lot of very dirty trucks. A goods train, he grumbled. The shame of it, the shame of it.
See, he's even getting involved with a trafficking operation now. The parallels are uncanny.
And Gordon Tate's mood doesn't improve much when he gets stuck halfway up a subsequent hill, prompting Edward and co to come and help.
I can't do it. I can't do it, puffed Gordon. I will do it. I will do it. I will do it, puffed Edward. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could. And almost before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill. I've done it. I've done it. I've done it, he said proudly. He forgot all about Edward and didn't wait to say thank you.
Yep. No gratitude and off he sods to who knows where. Romania, presumably.
He ran on to the next station, and there he found that the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. The fireman gave him a nice long drink, and the driver said, I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful coat of blue with red stripes. Then you'll be the smartest engine in the shed.
So I guess that's a fairly wholesome message to end this episode on. No matter how old, worn down or past your prime you get, you can still adapt and work towards new goals. Captain Tom, Stephen Hendry with his Q-Tips channel, Colin Island, and now Edward. You're never too old to rise to new challenges and you should never stop believing in yourself.
But this cheery note of optimism doesn't last too long, as next up is perhaps the most infamous episode in the entire show's history.
Once, an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. It went into a tunnel and squeaked through its funnel and wouldn't come out again.
To be fair, it's a significant improvement on some of his previous lyrical work.
The engine's name is Henry. His driver and fireman argued with him, but he would not move. The rain will spoil my lovely green paint and red stripes, he said. The guard blew his whistle till he had no more breath and waved his flag till his arms ached. But Henry still stayed in the tunnel and blew steam at him. I'm not going to spoil my lovely green paint and red stripes for you.
Yeah, as a vain, lazy introvert with an anxiety disorder, I'm finding this all a bit too real.
And for Henry, things are about to get a lot worse.
Then along came Sir Topham Hatt, the man in charge of all the engines on Sodor. They call him the Fat Controller. We will pull you out, said the Fat Controller, but Henry only blew steam at him. Everyone pulled except the Fat Controller, because, he said, my doctor has forbidden me to pull.
Ah, the old Nick Fuentes excuse.
Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
Then they tried pushing from the other end. The Fat Controller said, 1, 2, 3, push. but he didn't help. My doctor has forbidden me to push, he said.
I'm guessing bone spurs?
They pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah, you can absolutely see all them passengers really giving it their all, can't you?
But still Henry stayed in the tunnel. At last Thomas came along. The guard waved his red flag and stopped him. Everyone argued with Henry. Look, it has stopped raining, they said. Yes, but it will begin again soon, said Henry.
A pretty accurate summary of what Wimbledon used to be like before Centre Court got a roof.
I don't think I've ever seen heavier rain than this at Wimbledon.
And if Cliff Richard's among that gathering of passengers outside, then I can see why Henry would rather stay in the tunnel, to be honest.
And after Thomas has once again proven to be as effective as a Veruca sock at a Michael Barrymore pool party.
Eventually, even the fat controller gave up. We shall take away your rails, he said, and leave you here for always and always and always.
Love that reaction from Henry. Oh, fine, whatever.
But Henry's attitude becomes rather less blasé when it becomes clear that the fat controller has gone full Trump.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
All he could do was watch the trains rushing through the other tunnel. He was very sad because he thought no one would ever see his lovely green paint with red stripes again. As time went on, Edward and Gordon would often pass by. Edward would say, peep, peep, hello. And Gordon would say, poop, 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 serves you right.
Oh yeah, you gloat now, but this could be you soon enough if the charges stick.
Poor Henry had no steam to answer. His fire had gone out. Sudden dirt from the tunnel had spoilt his lovely green paint and red stripes anyway. He wondered if he would ever be allowed to pull trains again. But I think he deserved his punishment. Don't you?
Yeah, skive off work for the afternoon, and the only reasonable punishment is a hobbling followed by life imprisonment. So that was episode 3, The Sad Story of Henry, brought to you by your guest narrator, General Ringusto Pinochet.
Gordon always pulled the big express. He was proud of being the only engine strong enough to do so. It was full of important people, like the Fat Controller,
Former Duke of York Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and Special Trade Envoy to the United States, Peter Mandelson.
Not Elon Musk though, he could never wrangle an invitation despite his best efforts.
And as Gordon approaches the tunnel where Henry stands trapped, regretful and feeling sorry for himself, the former has a sick, twisted and depraved brainwave.
I'm going to poop at Henry, said Gordon.
What, like Vince McMahon did at Janelle Grant, you mean? You might want to get him to sign an NDA first, fella.
Fortunately for Henry, things don't progress that far, as Gordon's excitement at the idea of performing such a grotesque act of deviancy causes him to prematurely blow his load.
And there was Gordon going slower and slower, in a cloud of steam. His driver stopped the train. What has happened to me? Asked Gordon. I feel so weak. You've burst your safety valve, said the driver. You can't pull the train anymore. Oh dear, said Gordon. We were going so nicely too. And look, there's Henry laughing at me.
You absolutely deserved it, to be fair.
You sick freak!
Huh, said the Fat Controller. I never liked these big engines. Always going wrong.
Well, why did you buy him then?
Send for another engine at once. While the guard went to find one, they uncoupled Gordon, who had enough puff to slink onto the siding out of the way. Edward was the only engine left. I'll come and try, he said.
Yeah, this is going to be a complete shit show, isn't it?
Huh, said Gordon. That's no use. Edward can't push the train.
And sure enough,
Edward puffed and pushed and pushed and puffed, but he couldn't move the heavy coaches. I told you so, said Gordon. Why not let Henry try? Yes, said the Fat Controller, I will. Will you help pull this train, Henry? He asked.
Nah, can't be arsed, mate. I was just going to chill out and read the Sunday Sport this afternoon. But of course, after an untold amount of time incarcerated, and any vestige of class consciousness now a distant memory, or should I say, LNER Gresley class consciousness,
Henry jumps at the chance to return to work immediately with no questions asked. In fact, The prospect of pulling trains again has got Henry very excited indeed.
Oh, I am stiff, I am stiff. When Henry came back, he felt much better.
That's the relieved face of an engine who's just cracked one off, alright.
Peep, peep, said Edward, I'm ready. Peep, 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 said Henry, so am I. Pull hard, we'll do it. Pull hard, we'll do it. We've done it together. We've done it together, said Edward and Henry. You've done it, hooray! You've done it, hooray!
I do hope for his sake that Christopher Awdry never found out that dialogue exchange was lifted straight from what the Reverend Wilbur and his mum were crying out to each other during his conception.
Everyone was excited. The Fat Controller leaned out of the window to wave at Edward and Henry. But the train was going so fast that his hat blew off into a field where a goat ate it for tea.
It's amazing how the tone completely shifted from the Shawshank Redemption in the last episode to carry on camping in this.
They never stopped till they came to the station at the end of the line. The passengers all said thank you, and the Fat Controller promised Henry a new coat of paint. All three engines are now great friends. Henry doesn't mind the rain now. He knows that the best way to keep his paint nice is not to run into tunnels, but to ask his driver to rub him down when the day's work is over.
But of course no days off or any kind of in-work benefits beyond a daily hand job from his driver. Just be grateful for the opportunity, I assume. So yeah, that wraps up Henry's legendary tunnel arc. I say legendary because contrary to what many people online think, no, he did not die or spend eternity locked in there. In fact, his incarceration barely lasted one episode. But yeah, not only was his release not quite the feel-good redemption story it doubtless seemed to us as children, but given some of the horrors awaiting Henry later on in this same series, he might have actually been better off staying in there, really.
I spend my time pulling coaches about ready for you to take out on journeys. The other engines laughed. Why can't I pull passenger trains too? You're too impatient, they said. You'd be sure to leave something behind. Rubbish, said Thomas. I'll show you.
Yeah, Thomas, you tell them, motherfuckers.
One night, he and Henry were alone. Henry was ill. The men worked hard, but he didn't get better.
Probably pneumonia from being bricked up in that cold, dirty tunnel for all that time.
He felt just as bad next morning. Henry usually pulled the first train, and Thomas had to get his coaches ready. If Henry is ill, he thought, perhaps I shall pull his train. Thomas ran to find the coaches.
Yeah, I'm no locomotive doctor or anything, but I'm pretty sure looking at him that Henry's dead.
Thomas took them to the platform and wanted to run round in front at once. But his driver wouldn't let him. Don't be impatient, Thomas.
Yeah, individuals all deal with heavy stuff like grief and worry for their nearest and dearest in different ways, so you have to commend Thomas for bravely appearing as though he doesn't give one shiny shit about his dead or dying friend back at the shed.
The people got in. The guard and station master walked up and down. The porter banged the doors.
Wow, yeah, he put a frankly frightening amount of force behind that.
And still Henry didn't come. Thomas got more and more
worried for his friend.
Excited.
Oh.
The Fat Controller came to see what was the matter, and the guard and the station master told him about Henry.
I'm afraid he was pronounced dead at 5:26 this morning, sir.
Find another engine, he ordered. There's only Thomas, they said. You'll have to do it then, Thomas.
And with that, Thomas finally gets the chance to prove all the doubters and naysayers wrong, to rise to the occasion and put those who sneered at him in their place, to show them, the passengers, the Fat Controller, and most importantly himself, that he can do it, that he is not too impatient, that he is not bound to fuck it up in some way.
What happened then, no one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train, or perhaps the driver pulled the lever by mistake. Anyhow, Thomas started.
Oh, for sake.
Men waved and shouted, but he didn't stop. They're waving because I'm such a splendid engine, he thought importantly.
Yeah, are they waving to you like this by any chance?
Henry says it's hard to pull trains, but I think it's easy. Hurry, 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 he puffed, pretending to be like Gordon. People have never seen me pulling a train before. It's nice of them to wave, and he whistled. Peep, peep, thank you. Then he came to a signal at danger. Bother, he thought. I must stop, and I was going so nicely, too. What a nuisance signals are. He blew an angry peep, peep on his whistle. The signalman ran up. Hello, Thomas, he said. What are you doing here? I'm pulling a train, said Thomas. Can't you see? Where are your coaches, then? Thomas looked back. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left them behind. Yes, said the signalman. You'd better go back quickly and fetch them. Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried.
So I guess the moral of this story is always listen to your doubters, know your place, and if someone tells you you can't do something, they're probably right.
At the station, all the passengers were talking at once. They were telling the Fat Controller what a bad railway it was.
Just wait until it gets privatised and sold off to foreign investors. Shit like this will be the least of its problems.
For a long time afterwards, the other engines laughed at Thomas and said, Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a train, but forgot about the coaches.
Yeah, it's not exactly the sickest burn I've ever heard. Then again, I've never worked in transport, so maybe this is the gold standard of hazing within that industry. On the off chance there is an afterlife, I wonder if this is the rinsing that the head of OceanGate's been getting from his fellow deceased deep-sea explorers for the last few years.
Look, there's Stockton, who wanted to pilot a carbon fiber submersible to the wreck of the Titanic, but forgot to implement even the most basic safety precautions. Thomas the Tank Engine wouldn't stop being a nuisance. Night after night he kept the other engines awake. I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world.
Ah yes, the famous Lost episode. Thomas and the underwhelming package holiday to Corfu.
But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I've got some trucks to take home tomorrow. If you take them instead of me, I'll push coaches in the yard. Next morning, Edward and Thomas asked their drivers, and when they said yes, Thomas ran off happily to find trucks.
But as Ringo explains, and Thomas is about to discover, the supposedly kind Edward has just stitched him up good and proper.
Now, trucks are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. And I'm sorry to say they play tricks on an engine who is not used to them.
Oh, not more shitty pranks.
Edward knew all about trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle. Peep, peep, answered Thomas and started off. But the trucks weren't ready. Oh, they screamed, wait, Thomas, wait. But Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on, he puffed. All right, don't fuss. All right, don't fuss, grumbled the trucks.
This isn't going to end well.
Hurry, called Thomas. He was feeling very proud of himself, but the trucks grew crosser and crosser. At last, Thomas slowed down as he came to Gordon's Hill.
I mean, where I'm from, I've always known people to have an inherent suspicion of trucks. Mainly because throughout the 1970s, no one could be sure which one the Yorkshire Ripper was going to spring out of.
Steady now, steady, warned the driver as they reached the top. He began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas. No, answered the trucks, bumping into each other. Go on. Before the driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him. Poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast. Stop pushing, he hissed. But
It's just a prank, bro, answered the trucks.
there's the station. Oh dear, what shall I do? He cried. They rattled straight through and swerved into the goods yard. Thomas shut his eyes. I must stop. When he opened his eyes, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers. There watching him was the Fat Controller. What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked.
Here we go. Immediately shift the guilt and blame away from your own glaring negligence and onto the inexperienced newbie who just narrowly avoided a catastrophic workplace injury.
I brought Edward's trucks, Thomas answered. Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed, said Thomas. You've got a lot to learn about trucks then, little Thomas.
Right, so this is clearly a known, recurring and serious issue, and despite this, you continue to presumably pay well over the odds, needlessly, for evil, sentient trucks, thereby continuing to recklessly endanger your staff, passengers and railway. But it's Thomas who has a lot to learn.
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
Every day, the Fat Controller came to the station to catch his train. Hello, he always said to Thomas. Remember, don't be impatient, Thomas. You can never be as strong and fast as Gordon, but you can be a really useful engine.
A valuable member of the team who needs to be flexible and always prepared to go the extra mile because we're more like a family here, yada yada.
Don't let the silly trucks tease you.
Because obviously, despite being in charge of the entire railway, I accept no responsibility to terminate or discipline said trucks, even though they present a clear and present liability.
There was also a small coach and two strange things his driver called cranes. That's the breakdown train, he told Thomas. The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines and coaches and trucks.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
One day, Thomas was in the yard. Suddenly, he heard an engine whistling. Help! Help! A goods train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire.
Oh, don't panic. I know just the man who can help with this.
Alas not. As it turns out, the island of Sodor is much too far away from Pontypandy. So inevitably, in another resounding victory for deregulation and a lack of workers' protection legislation,
soon came the alarm. James is off the line. The breakdown train, quickly! Thomas was coupled on and off they went.
Phew! One hell of a lucky coincidence that Thomas just so happened to notice the breakdown train for the very first time and learn what it was for mere moments before he needed to save the day with it, eh?
Bother those trucks and their tricks. I hope poor James isn't hurt. James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over.
We've got a dead body and your first idea is to sexually assault it.
Never mind, James, they said. It wasn't your fault. It was those wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good.
I mean, I'd put a lot more of the blame on the trucks themselves and on the recklessly negligent arse who keeps commissioning them personally. It's a bit like blaming Google Maps for the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled the unhurt trucks out of the way. Oh dear, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas. This'll teach you a lesson, he told the trucks. And they answered, yes it will.
Spoiler alert, no, it doesn't.
And once most of the debris has been cleared, James is lifted back onto the rails, and Thomas gives him a tow back to the shed.
The Fat Controller was waiting anxiously for them.
Yeah, I'll bet he's anxious. For the last few episodes, he's been one lawsuit away from being forced to live under a bridge and perform sultry belly dances for shady Gulf State oil tycoons just to afford food.
You're a really useful engine. James shall have some proper brakes and a new coat of paint. And you shall have a branch line all to yourself. Oh, thank you, sir, said Thomas.
The locomotive equivalent of hush money, basically.
Now Thomas is as happy as can be. He has a branch line and two coaches called Annie and Clarabelle. He puffs proudly backwards and forwards with them all day.
Ah, well, at least our boy Thomas gets plenty of threesomes out of it.
He is never lonely. Edward and Henry stop quite often and tell him the news.
Ah, yes, I can just see it now.
Gordon is always in a hurry, but never forgets to say poop poop, and Thomas always whistles peep peep in return.
And they all live non-disclosed, happily ever after.
James was enjoying his life on the island of Sodor, but he still had a lot to learn. You're a special mixed traffic engine, said the Fat Controller. You can pull coaches or trucks quite easily.
Which means I can give you twice the workload but without it costing me any more money.
But you must learn by your mistakes. James knew what the Fat Controller meant. He could well remember that dreadful accident on his first day.
First day, so he wasn't even given any training before being put in such an avoidably dangerous position. Yeah, sure, James is definitely the one who needs to learn from his mistakes here.
But as has become a familiar pattern by now, the programme wastes no time undoing any sympathy the young, impressionable audience has built up with a clear victim of corporate negligence and manipulation by spending the next few minutes portraying James as the most obnoxious, arrogant and insufferable to listen to individual shaded red since Mick Hucknall.
Everyone came to admire James. I'm a really splendid engine, he thought, and suddenly let off steam. A shower of water fell on the Fat Controller's nice new top hat.
Serves him right. What sort of total arsehole swans about the place in an overly ostentatious hat?
Just then the guard blew his whistle, and James thought they had better go. Go on, he puffed to Edward. Don't push, replied Edward. The coaches were grumbling too. Don't go so fast. But James didn't listen.
And having bravely legged it from Sir Topham ruined Hatt, James's carelessness continues to cause problems.
When at last they stopped at the next station, two coaches were beyond the platform.
The rear doors will not open at the next station. Please use other doors.
Before eventually rendezvousing with freshly bribed stud muffin Thomas.
Oh, that's my guard's whistle. I must go. I don't know what the Fat Controller would do without me to run this branch line.
Probably the exact same thing he was doing before he gave it to you as a token gesture to keep you on side, I imagine.
And as the day draws to a close, James worries what the Fat Controller will have to say about his top hat. As it turns out, with good reason.
Next morning, the Fat Controller spoke severely to him. If you can't behave, I shall take away your red coat and have you painted blue.
Ooh, yeah, going from red to blue. The unmistakable hallmark of a laughably ridiculous shit gibbon.
Unsurprisingly, the threat of being reduced to such a primitive, babbling simpleton puts James in a foul mood.
He was very rough with the grumbling coaches as he brought them to the platform. Don't talk, come on, he called to them. Gordon never has to fetch his own coaches, he thought to himself, and he's only painted blue. Hurry, puffed James. You're going too fast, replied the coaches. James laughed and tried to go faster, but the coaches wouldn't let him. We're going to stop, they said. We're going to stop. What's the matter? James asked his driver. You've banged the coaches enough to make a leak in anything. How shall we mend it? Said the guard. We'll do it with newspaper and a leather bootlace, replied the driver. Well, where is the bootlace coming from? Asked the guard.
Maybe ring up the Fat Controller or his mate Oswald Mosley. See if either have a pair of jack boots they could lend you.
Ask the passengers, said the driver. You have a leather bootlace there, I see, sir, said the guard to a smartly dressed man. Please give it to me. I won't, said the man.
I was planning to use it to autoerotically asphyxiate myself when I get back to the hotel, he added.
Then, said the guard, I'm afraid the train will just stop where it is. The passengers all said what a bad railway it was.
To be fair, that's getting harder to dispute with each passing minute.
Then they told the man how bad he was instead.
All right, no need to kink shame the poor fella.
At last he handed his laces over. The driver tied a pad of newspaper tightly round the hole in the brake pipe, and James was able to pull the train.
Man, you know James has fucked up big time when the most Thatcherite railway ever has to resort to forced collectivisation.
But he was a sadder and wiser James, and took care never to bump coaches again.
Apart from Sam Allardyce, obviously. Not bumping that particular coach at some point would be too profoundly un-British.
Still, on the plus side, it seems many of the characters are learning valuable lessons as the series goes on. Thomas not to antagonise Gordon, Henry to seek handjobs from his driver rather than tunnels to hide in, and James not to give the P. Diddy treatment to any carriages he's pulling. And hey, we didn't hear a peep out of him in the last episode, so maybe even the Fat Controller has had second thoughts on the nihilistic cowboys apparently supplying his trucks and perhaps found a new supplier.
Oh, for God's sake. Right, I know the Rail Accident Investigation Branch wasn't founded until 2005, long after this show is set, but was there not even some sort of precursor investigation body, and if so, how were they this fucking useless? Or is the Fat Controller covering up or just not reporting all these truck-related catastrophes? And even putting all that to one side, what the hell is going on at the warehouse where these nefarious death traps are being constructed?
Sir, this order from the Fat Controller on the Island of Sodor for 200 more trucks. Are you sure you want us to make these ones sentient as well?
Yes, it's the way we've always done it. And he prefers to go by Sir Topham Hatt.
It's just that every single new batch we've produced for the last 25 years has turned out to be evil.
I don't think that's very fair. I think they're just cheeky and misunderstood.
That's as maybe. But have you ever actually read any of the reports from our accountant?
No. Numbers have never really been my thing.
Well, for a start, even though we sell each batch for only slightly above the standard market rate, the extra materials, expertise and man-hours required to give these trucks any kind of human personality increased our manufacturing costs by 1,000%, meaning we're making a huge loss on each truck.
I've always believed one has to speculate to accumulate.
In addition to this, over the last 20 years, the numerous catastrophic accidents caused by these special anthropomorphic trucks of ours have racked up total damages equal to England's entire GDP. At whatever precise point in the 20th century this actually is.
I still say it's all too easy to place the blame on our trucks. Surely a really useful engine should know better than to be so careless with them.
With all due respect, sir, what in God's name are you talking about? Just a few weeks ago, they managed to set a new engine's brakes on fire and throw him off the rails. It's frankly a miracle nobody's been killed yet. In fact, the only way the lack of fatalities so far would make any sense is if we're unknowingly existing within a children's television universe, where the concept of human mortality is strictly off limits. Why can't we do the sensible thing for once, and just build some standard, unsentient, non-troublesome trucks?
Because giving our wagons temperamental and problematic personalities is a long-standing tradition of ours. It was the way my father did it before me, and his father before him. Besides, I'm pretty sure I know what's been going wrong. And so I've had another tinker with the design for this lot. New trucks, do you promise to behave yourselves once you get to the Island of Sodor?
We will.
See? These ones can be trusted. I know I've said the same thing every time for many years now, but this time I'm fairly certain everything will be alright.
Yeah, something like that, I imagine.
Anyway, let's see what unnecessary havoc these things can wreak this time. And before we do so, a quick reminder that if you enjoy what I do, become a comrade and hit that subscribe button. And also remember to like, comment, share, ring the bell to get notified, etc. You'll be heartened to know this is not an AI channel. I write, perform and edit all this stuff myself. And trying to grow what is essentially a one-man operation on YouTube in 2026 is bloody hard. So anything you guys can do to help that growth, and try to reach my next milestone of 3,000 subscribers, would be greatly appreciated.
Anyway, that's the obligatory call to action taken care of. And now, back to the video.
James had not seen the Fat Controller for several days. He was left alone for being naughty.
Yeah, I can't help but feel the reason given for workplace disciplinary action should be a bit more specific than that. I mean, are we talking encasing your colleague's stapler inside a jelly naughty? Or implementing faulty software, absolving yourself from blame by framing hundreds of your own employees for theft and fraud and allowing many of them to receive false criminal convictions and, in some cases, end up taking their own lives? Naughty. It's just the descriptor being naughty can cover a vast range of infractions that can vary quite wildly in terms of severity, you know?
And was not even allowed out to push coaches and trucks in the yard. Oh dear, he thought, I shall have to stay in the shed for always.
So a week off work, not being pestered by the person who normally orders you about and being confined to your shed. I'm just wondering how many dads watched this episode with their kids and thought, what's this big red twat crying about? He's living the dream.
At last, the Fat Controller arrived.
Yeah, could you give me a few more minutes, Sweet Pea? I just need to finish sanding this bird table I've been building.
I see you are sorry, James, he said. I hope now that you will be a better engine. You have given me a lot of trouble. People are laughing at my railway, and I don't like that at all.
Just wait until the internet comes along, mate. People will be making YouTube videos laughing at how comically piss poor it is.
I will try hard to behave. That's a good engine, said the Fat Controller. I want you to pull some trucks for me.
Yeah, this feels a lot like that bit at the end of The Godfather 2, where Michael lets Fredo think all is forgiven before sending him off to go fishing with one of his henchmen.
But, undeterred by the dubiously revengey nature of the task, some savage locomotive bants from Thomas.
Here are your trucks, James, said Thomas. Have you got some bootlaces ready?
And then some more from the trucks.
Oh, said the trucks. We want a proper engine, not a red monster.
It's not long before a defiant James is on his way.
The trucks tried hard to make him give up, but he still kept on. Sometimes their brakes would slip on, and sometimes their axles would run hot. And each time the trouble had to be put right. And each time James would start again, determined not to let them beat him.
Yeah, very inspirational and all, but surely this is causing massive delays. Man, no wonder British trains run on time about as often as Barney Walsh gets referred to as a talented and successful TV presenter in his own right.
Give up, you can't pull us, you can't call the trucks.
Yeah, I remember hearing that exact same line from quite a few of the girls at the Year 7 school disco back in 2003.
However, unlike 12-year-old me, James doesn't slink off to a dark corner, try to make himself invisible, and wait for the whole hideous ordeal to be over.
I can and I will, puffed James. And slowly but surely, he pulled them along the line. At last they saw Gordon's Hill.
So renamed because Gordon got stuck on it a few episodes ago, and because each engine is vying to be named the next Archbishop of Banterbury.
James went faster and soon they were halfway up. I'm doing it, he panted. Will the top never come? Then, with a sudden jerk, it all came easier. I've done it, he puffed. Hooray! It's easy now. But his driver shut off steam. They've done it again. We've left our tail behind. Look. The last trucks were running backwards down the hill. The coupling had snapped. But the guard stopped the trucks and got out to warn approaching engines. That's why it was easy, said James, as he backed the other trucks carefully down. What silly things trucks are. There might have been an accident.
I mean, we've got to be nearing the point where calling it an accident would be brushed aside in favour of a more accurate summary of corporate manslaughter.
Why can't we say accident again?
Because accident implies there's nobody to blame.
Shall I help you, James? Called Edward. No, thank you, answered James. I'll pull them myself.
Yeah, rugged individualism and your redemption arc are all well and good, James. It's just that if you fail, those trucks are going to roll backwards at high speed and smash my face in.
But basic health and safety protocol, and the somewhat problematic notion of accepting the offer of help being portrayed as a sign of weakness aside, James makes another assault on the summit. And soon enough...
I've done it, he panted. They reached their station safely and James was resting in the yard when Edward pulled up. Peep, peep, he whistled. Then James saw the fat controller. Oh dear, what will he say, he asked himself.
Right, so in addition to blaming his engines for fuck-ups that are far more his fault than theirs, the fat controller has them on such eggshells that they're terrified of incurring his wrath even when they've done good, all the while being presented as a firm but fair boss and all-round decent gentleman. Yeah, I don't know if anyone watching needs to hear this, but if you have someone in your life who treats you like that, be it a partner, a boss, a friend, a relative, or whatever else, they are not in the right, they are not a positive influence, they will ruin your life, and if it's at all safe or feasible to do so, you need to get as far away from them as possible and as soon as possible. And believe me, I'm speaking from bitter first-hand experience.
But the fat controller was smiling.
Oh, phew. He'll just lose his shit over something trivial later on instead, then.
I was in Edward's train and I saw everything, he said.
Because I've been checking up on you by following you around everywhere you go.
You've made the most troublesome trucks on the line behave. After that, you deserve to keep your red coat.
Well, at least that, I suppose. In this day and age, changing colour really doesn't do one's reputation or future career prospects any favours.
One night, Henry and Gordon were alone with James. Although the fat controller was beginning to think well of him, whenever a chance came, the other engines would talk of nothing but bootlaces. Remember the time one had to be used to get you out of trouble, James, they would tease. James tried to get his own back, talking about engines who got shut up in tunnels and stuck on hills. But they wouldn't listen.
Standard. Strength in numbers. Gang up and pick on the smallest and weakest one. Bonus points if they also happen to be a ginge.
You talk too much, little James, said Gordon. A fine, strong engine like me has something to talk about. I'm the only engine who can pull the express. When I'm not there, they need 2 engines. Think of that. I've pulled expresses for years and have never once lost my way. I seem to know the right line by instinct. Every wise engine knows, of course, that the signalman works the points to make engines run on the right lines.
Except when they don't, of course.
Wake up, James, said Gordon next morning. It's nearly time for the express. What are you doing? Odd jobs? Oh, well, we all have to begin somewhere, don't we? Run along now and get my coaches. Don't be late.
Gordon boasting about never getting lost despite not being prompted to do so in any way. Picking on James, crowing about being the only engine that can pull the express. The episode being called James and the Express. I don't know about you lot, but I'm having a really hard time predicting where this episode could possibly be heading.
I guess this is one of those great unknowns we're just going to have to uncover together. But in the meantime, James goes off to fetch the freshly painted coaches.
And they followed him smoothly into the station, singing happily, "We're going away, we're going away."
Classic children's TV trope there, directly quoting the Kray twins.
I wish I was going with you, said James. I should love to pull the express and go flying along the line.
Will there ever be a remarkably coincidental chain of events which enable that to happen?
The Fat Controller was on the train with other important people, and as soon as they heard the guard's whistle, Gordon started. Look at me now, he puffed, and the coaches glided after him. Poop, 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 poop. Goodbye, little James.
We're all the same, always seem to love to us. We were meant to be grown.
A few moments later.
There was Gordon trying to sidle into the station without being noticed. Did you lose your way, Gordon? Said James. No, it was lost for me. I was switched off the main line onto the loop. I had to go all round and back again. Perhaps it was instinct.
Well, that explains why Sodor's railway is so shit. It's basically modelled on the M25.
Meanwhile, all the passengers hurried to the booking office. We want our money back, they shouted.
If this delay results in you reaching your destination 15 minutes late, you can claim compensation through our delayed repay scheme.
But the Fat Controller climbed on a trolley and blew the guard's whistle, so loudly that they all stopped to look at him. Then he promised them a new train at once.
Yeah, no refunds on my railway, motherfuckers.
Gordon can't do it, he said. Will you pull it for us, James? Yes, sir, I'll try.
Man, who'd have thought that the episode that began with Gordon bullying James, bragging about never getting lost and being the only engine capable of pulling the express, would end with Gordon getting lost and James pulling the express.
Well, I'll be dead and rained on.
And sure enough, against a backdrop of triumphant music, James's express-pulling debut goes off without a hitch.
Everyone said thank you to James, and the Fat Controller was very impressed. Well done, he said. Would you like to pull the express sometimes? Yes, please, answered James. Next day, when James came by, Gordon was pushing trucks. I like some quiet work for a change, he said. I'm teaching these trucks manners. You did well with those coaches, I hear. James and Gordon are now good friends. James sometimes takes the express to give Gordon a rest.
Now, in isolation, this episode appears to be an inspirational underdog story of triumph and redemption. But in the context of the whole series, as relates to Gordon, it feels like it's not so subtly discouraging the notion of knowing your worth to an employer, instead enforcing the idea that there'll always be someone on hand to replace you and you should be grateful for any opportunity you get given. Or as Rock for Dwayne Johnson would put it,
know your role and shut your mouth.
Thomas the Tank Engine is very proud of his branch line. He thinks it's the most important part of the whole railway.
So important that it wasn't even mentioned until 7 episodes in, when you essentially got given it to stop you blabbing about the railway's insanely dangerous operating practices.
It's like making a div kid at school milk monitor. No one respects it.
His two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, agree with him. Clarabelle can take passengers, luggage, and the guard.
What an absolute slag.
They are both old and need new paint, but Thomas loves them very much.
So he's basically Sodor's answer to Wayne Rooney then.
As they run backwards and forwards along the line, they sing songs to each other. When Thomas starts from a station, he sings, "Oh, come along, we're rather late. Oh, come along, we're rather late." And the coaches sing, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me! Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me!"
Nah, not really.
We're coming along, we're coming along. They don't mind what Thomas says to them, because they know he is trying to please the Fat Controller. And they know, too, that if Thomas is cross, he's not cross with them.
Ah yes, the totally normal and wholesome cycle of workplace pressure and domestic abuse.
And Annie and Clarabelle are in danger of copping another whack from Thomas that he didn't mean and will never happen again, as he fumes over being forced to wait for the delayed Henry.
How can I run my line properly if Henry is always late? He doesn't realise that the Fat Controller depends on me.
Fucking hell, hark at Jobsworth the tank engine over here.
And eventually, a sickly Henry slowly slinks into the station whilst doing a big sad.
"Where have you been, lazy bones?" asked Thomas. "Oh dear, my system is out of order. No one understands my case. You don't know what I suffer."
As a 35-year-old man, I can absolutely assure you that I do.
"Rubbish," said Thomas. "You're too fat. You need exercise."
Exercise, and speaking from experience, quitting the stand-up comedy circuit would really help as well.
And with the seeds planted for the big story arc involving Henry later on in the series, an impatient Thomas makes a critical error.
The guard blew his whistle and Thomas started so quickly that he left him behind. The guard waved his red flag to stop Thomas, but he was well on his way, steaming out of the station. Come along, puffed Thomas. But Clarabelle didn't want to come. "I've lost my nice guard. I've lost my nice guard," she sobbed. Annie tried to tell Thomas what had happened. "We haven't a guard. We haven't a guard." But he was hurrying and wouldn't listen. Annie and Clarabelle tried to put on their brakes, but they couldn't without the guard. Thomas didn't stop till they came to a signal. "Bother that signal," said Thomas. "What's the matter?" "I don't know," said his driver. "The guard will tell us in a minute." They waited and waited, but the guard didn't come. "Peep, peep, peep, peep." "Where is the guard?" whistled Thomas. "We've left him behind," sobbed Annie and Clarabelle together. Everyone looked. And there was the guard running as fast as he could along the line.
Blimey, how fast is this guard? Look at him, an actual blur.
With his flags in one hand and his whistle in the other. He was very hot.
Well, he would be after running that distance in such a short space of time. Reminds me of that photo of Roger Bannister just after he completed the first 4-minute mile.
So he had a drink.
Of milk. Ooh, I wouldn't have recommended that.
It's so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice.
Then told them all about it.
Typical long-distance runner, really. Always droning on about it, being completely insufferable.
"I'm very sorry, Mr. Guard."
Fortuitous surname given the profession he ultimately chose.
"It wasn't your fault, Thomas," he replied.
I mean, it kind of was, to be fair.
But no matter. Underway once again, the episode fizzles out rather tamely, with a speeding Thomas completing the rest of the journey in record time. And with that, we move on to the next adventure featuring the eponymous engine.
When Thomas puffed along his branch line, he always looked forward to something special.
A cocaine-fueled threesome with Annie and Clarabelle at the end of the day.
The sight of the river.
Alright, yeah. I can certainly see why. It looks lovely.
As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing.
Only things I can see anyone fishing out of that river are used condoms and pieces of clothing from the bodies that have been dumped in it.
Thomas often wanted to stay and watch, but his driver said no. What would the Fat Controller say if we were late?
I'm going to give him the rollicking of his life.
Every time he met another engine, he would say, "I want to fish." But they all had the same answer. Engines don't go fishing.
Yeah, we don't get to have hobbies or time off. What are you, a communist? Then again, my dad took me fishing a couple of times many years ago and it was boring as balls, so I'm kind of on the fence with this one. And that's coming from a man who likes golf.
Although Thomas will be reacquainted with his favourite river very soon, thanks to the latest in a long line of Sodor Railway's infrastructural fuck-ups.
One day he stopped as usual to take in water at the station by the river. Out of order? Bother, said Thomas. I'm thirsty. Never mind, said his driver. We'll get some water from the river.
Might be worth double checking whether or not steam locomotives can get cholera first. Seriously, I reckon Ofwat need to have a close look at that river. Looks like Thames Water have been Thames watering again.
They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. Then the driver let the bucket down to the water. The bucket was old and had 5 holes. So they had to fill it, pull it up and empty it into Thomas's tank as quickly as they could, several times over.
Jesus Christ, what kind of slapstick vaudeville shit show is this?
They finished at last. That's good, puffed Thomas.
Yes. Them turds really make it extra flavourful, don't they?
And now full to the brim with succulent sewage, a happy and refreshed Thomas is soon on his way again. However,
suddenly, Thomas began to feel a pain in his boiler. Steam began to hiss from his safety valve in an alarming way. Oh dear, groaned Thomas, I'm going to burst. They damped down his fire and struggled on. I've got such a pain, Thomas hissed.
Yep, they've poisoned him.
They stopped just outside the last station, uncoupled Annie and Clarabelle, and ran Thomas, who was still hissing fit to burst, on a siding right out of the way. Then while the guard telephoned for an engine inspector, the driver found notices in large letters, which he hung on Thomas in front and behind. Danger! Keep away!
I really need to get that same sign for our front door.
Soon the inspector and the Fat Controller arrived. The driver told them what had happened. So the feed pipe is blocked, said the inspector. I'll just look in the tanks. He climbed up and peered in. Then he came down. Excuse me, sir. Please look in the tank and tell me what you see. He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise. Inspector, he whispered, can you see...
a great big jobby sloshing around in the tank?
Fish.
Yep, of course.
We must have fished them from the river with our bucket. Well, Thomas, so you and your driver have been fishing. But fish don't suit you. We must get them out. They all took turns at fishing in Thomas's tank, while the Fat Controller looked on and told them how to do it. When they had caught all the fish, they had a lovely picnic supper of fish and chips.
But not before sorting out their online dating profile pics. That character model pose. Could be used to signify, what a tasty meal. Could just as easily be used to convey, who's farted. Such was the miracle of the pre-CGI days of Thomas the Tank Engine and friends.
That was good, said the Fat Controller. But fish don't suit you, Thomas, so you mustn't do it again.
Hang on, how the fuck was any of this Thomas's fault exactly?
No, sir, I won't, said Thomas sadly. Engines don't go fishing. It's too uncomfortable.
So, main takeaways from this episode. Pursuing your own hobbies and interests is more trouble than it's worth and compromises your productivity. And an employer's failure to provide safe drinking water for their staff, thus forcing them to drink dirty water that then makes them sick, is mere light-hearted mishap and whimsy that can be laughed off over supper, whilst also putting the blame for it on said worker, and not even giving them the afternoon off. Yeah, come to think of it, no wonder this show is a smash hit in the United States as well.
Autumn had come to the island of Sodor. The fields were changing from yellow stubble to brown earth, and a tractor was hard at work as Thomas puffed along. Later, Thomas saw the tractor close by. Hello, said the tractor. I'm Terence. I am ploughing.
Oh, who are you ploughing? Is she fit?
I'm Thomas. I'm pulling a train.
Christ, this is like listening to two teenage boys arguing over which of them is the most sexually active.
What ugly wheels you've got.
Well, that's not very nice.
They're not ugly. They're caterpillars, said Terence. I can go anywhere. I don't need rails. I don't want to go anywhere, said Thomas. I like my rails, thank you.
And as winter sets in, so too does the snow, which leads to Thomas poo-pooing his driver's concerns with predictable and not at all foreshadowing overconfidence.
They finished their journey safely, but by now the country was covered. You'll need your snowplow for the next journey, Thomas, said his driver. Snow is silly soft stuff. It won't stop me.
Nope. No sirree, Bob. Absolutely no chance of that happening in any way, shape or form.
The snowplow was heavy and uncomfortable and made Thomas cross. He shook it and he banged it, and when they got back, it was so damaged that the driver had to take it off. You're a very naughty engine, he said to Thomas.
And you deserve a spanking.
And despite the best efforts of Thomas's driver and fireman, the plough isn't mended in time for the following day. Although this delights Thomas, it's clear that his crew, as well as Annie and Clarabelle, are increasingly shitting themselves.
It's not bad here, he said to the fireman, but it's sure to be deep in the valley. I didn't need that stupid old thing yesterday, and I shan't today. Snow can't stop me.
Yeah, nothing good ever happens when you enter a tunnel with that level of cockiness. Just ask that bloke at the start of the Italian Job, or Princess Diana's driver.
And sure enough...
Yeah, you don't usually tune into a kids' TV show expecting to see scenes ripped directly from Scarface, but here we are.
Cinders and ashes, said Thomas.
Alright, Thomas, there's no need for such foul language.
I'm stuck. And he was.
And no matter what anyone tries, Thomas not only can't be freed, but he becomes even more buried and stuck.
What a silly engine I am. And Thomas began to cry.
Oi, this is the 20th century. Big boys aren't meant to cry. They're meant to bottle everything up, self-medicate, routinely beat the shit out of their wives and children and drop dead before the age of 60 like real men.
At last a bus came to rescue the passengers.
And it was at this moment that the concept of the rail replacement bus service was born.
And then, who should come to Thomas's rescue but Terence? Snow never worries him. He pulled the empty coaches away, then came back for Thomas.
Ladies first and all that.
Terence tugged and slipped and slipped and tugged, and at last dragged Thomas clear of the snow, ready for the journey home.
Well, that was bloody decent of him. In fact, the next time a guy with a perfectly square face would be this helpful was when David Coulthard let Mika Hakkinen overtake him to win the 1998 Australian Grand Prix.
Thank you, Terence. Your caterpillars are splendid, said Thomas.
Oh, you'd never get away with making such a lewd remark to a co-worker these days.
I hope you'll be sensible now, Thomas, said his driver. I'll try, said Thomas.
What a beautifully non-committal response.
Thomas was waiting at a junction when a bus arrived. Hello, said Thomas. Who are you?
Ronnie Pickering. Oh, Ronnie Pickering. Oh, Ronnie Pickering.
Nah, not really.
In fact, it's the same bus that briefly appeared in the last episode. We learn that his name is Bertie, but the nature of their previous meeting quickly turned this initially friendly chat into a fiercely competitive one.
I've come to help you with your passengers today. Help me, said Thomas. I can go faster than you. You can't, said Bertie. I can, huffed Thomas. I'll race you, said Bertie. Their drivers agreed to the race going ahead.
Ah, yes. This was a lot less clandestine during the 20th century than it is today. One's supposed value within British society would often be determined by race.
The station master said, "Are you ready? Go." Thomas never could go fast at first.
Yeah, as my wife will attest, the closer I get to 40, the more I can relate.
Why don't you go fast? Why don't you go fast? Called Annie and Clarabel. Wait and see, hissed Thomas.
Okay, now I'm feeling very attacked.
He's a long way ahead, they wailed. But Thomas didn't mind. He'd remembered the level crossing. There was Bertie, fuming at the gates.
Again, fuming at the gates is all too relatable ever since the EU's entry and exit system was brought in.
Thanks, dickheads. And with that, the race becomes something of a game of leapfrog between the two.
Hurry, 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 panted Thomas. Then he looked ahead. There was Bertie tooting triumphantly on his horn. Matron! Goodbye, Thomas. You must be tired. Sorry I can't stop. We buses have to work, you know. Goodbye. Oh dear, thought Thomas. We've lost. But he felt better after a drink.
Funnily enough, that pretty much describes Alex Higgins during the mid-session interval of every match he was ever behind in.
Until inevitably, given the pro-railway propagandary nature of the series...
I've done it, panted Thomas. We've done it, hooray, we've done it, hooray, chanted Annie and Clarabel as they whooshed into the last station.
In fact, this episode is almost the inverse of those car versus rail races they used to do on Top Gear.
I won't blame the tools, but I will blame the French.
Except Top Gear wasn't quite as right-leaning as this show, obviously.
Everyone was there to celebrate Thomas's victory, but they gave Bertie a big welcome too.
Yeah, that'll just be out of pity. Not because he lost, but because he's a ginge.
Well done, Thomas, said Bertie. That was fun. But to beat you over that hill, I should have to grow wings and be an aeroplane.
Or maybe do the race again on a Sunday when there's planned engineering works. I reckon you'd be in with a shout then.
They now keep each other very busy. They often talk about their race, but Bertie's passengers don't like being bounced like peas in a frying pan. And the Fat Controller has warned Thomas not to race at dangerous speeds. So although, between you and me, they would like to have another race, I don't think they ever will. Do you?
I'll level with you, Ringo. It's not something I've given a moment's thought to over the years, to be honest. Kind of always have more pressing priorities, you know?
Henry and Gordon were lonely when Thomas left the yard to run his branch line. They missed him very much. They had more work to do and had to fetch their own coaches. They didn't like that. James grumbled too. We get no rest, they all complained.
So since Thomas left, no engine's been brought in to replace him, meaning you've had a much greater workload and far shorter rest periods in between. Yeah, sounds like you three have a very legitimate grievance. I'm sure your plight will be portrayed very sympathetically.
Really? No.
In fact, what we'll bear witness to over the course of the next 2 to 3 episodes is Thomas the Tank Engine and friends at its anti-union, ultra-conservative worst.
Altogether, the engines were causing the Fat Controller a great deal of trouble.
Good. Workers of the world unite, etc.
The big stations at both ends of the line each have a turntable. The Fat Controller had made them so that the tender engines can be turned round, because it is dangerous for them to go fast backwards. Tank engines like Thomas don't need turntables. They can go just as well backwards as forwards.
Well, bully for him, the smug prick.
You don't understand, little Thomas. We tender engines have a position to keep up. It doesn't matter where you go, but we are important. And for the Fat Controller to make us shunt trucks, fetch coaches, and go on some of those dirty sidings, it's not the proper thing.
Yeah, dissatisfied workers are just arrogant and entitled. Can you tell where they're going with this yet?
Disgraceful, Gordon hissed as he ran backwards to the turntable. The turntable was in a windy place close to the sea, and if he was not on it just right, he put it out of balance and made it difficult to turn. Today, Gordon was in a bad temper, and the wind was blowing fiercely. His driver tried to make him stop in the right place, but Gordon wasn't trying.
I mean, he's entirely controlled by his driver. What the fuck's he supposed to do?
It's no good, they said at last. Your tender upsets the balance. If you were a nice tank engine, you'd be all right.
That's a bit like a workplace having inadequate disabled access and then telling a wheelchair-bound employee it's their fault for not being able to walk.
Now you'll have to pull the next train backwards. Look, call some boys. There's a new tank engine. Oh, it's only Gordon back to front.
Ugh, having to put up with children being arseholes. Something I very much don't miss from my days working on a kiosk.
Hello, Cole Thomas. Playing tank engines? Sensible engine. Take my advice, scrap your tender and have a nice bunker.
No, don't go for a bunker. Didn't exactly work out well for the last guy who tried that, did it?
Even James laughed when he saw him. Take care, hissed Gordon. You might stick too. No fear, chuckled James. I'm not so fat as you.
Ah, classic divide and conquer. Who needs Rupert Murdoch when you've got Sir Topham Hatt?
And unfortunately for James, Gordon's words of warning soon proved to be quite prophetic.
Gordon arrived in time to see everything. James turned much too easily. The wind puffed him round like a top. Well, well, said Gordon, are you playing roundabouts? Poor James, feeling quite giddy, rolled off to the shed without a word.
Yeah, wasn't this one of the rounds on Takeshi's castle? I'd say your working conditions have definitely become unacceptable when they start matching the torture and humiliation levels of a Japanese game show.
That night, the three engines had an indignation meeting. It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. Gordon has to go backwards and people think he's a tank engine. James spins round like a top and everyone laughs at us. And to add to that...
Henry is also here.
Listen, said Gordon. He whispered something to the others. We'll do it tomorrow. The Fat Controller will look silly.
Yes. They're going to hide his top hat and replace it with a fez.
The engines had decided to go on strike.
All right, yeah. And about time too.
The Fat Controller sat in his office listening to the noise outside. The passengers were angry. The station master came in. There's trouble in the shed, sir.
He said it! He said it!
Henry is sulking, there's no train, and the passengers are saying this is a bad railway. Indeed, said the Fat Controller, we cannot allow that.
I mean... have you tried not being spectacularly shit at your job?
Of course not. Instead, he hot-foots it over to the proverbial picket line, where Gordon is ready to lay out their demands.
We won't shunt like common tank engines.
Really going out of their way to depict the strikers as spoilt, unreasonable and unlikable, aren't they? Really hoping their audience, primarily made up of children, won't notice that what they're asking for is actually perfectly reasonable. The propaganda really starts at an early age, doesn't it?
That was Thomas's job. We are important tender engines. You fetch our coaches and we will pull them. Tender engines don't shunt. Oh, indeed, said the Fat Controller. We'll see about that. Engines on my railway do as they are told. And he hurried away to find Edward. The yard has never been the same since Thomas left to run his branch line, he thought sadly.
Well, no. It's resulted in Gordon, Henry and James being overworked. Hence why they're on strike. Are you beginning to understand now?
Edward was shunting. Leave those trucks, please, Edward, said the Fat Controller. I want you to push coaches for me in the yard. Thank you, sir. That will be a nice change. That's a good engine. Off you go, then.
That's right. Run along, Edward, you dirty little scab.
So Edward found coaches for the three engines, and that day the trains ran as usual.
I mean, given the abnormally high rate of accidents and mishap on Sodor, define as usual.
And in a surprise to everyone, except anyone not named Edward or Sir Topham Hatt, Edward's betrayal doesn't go down well with his fellow tender engines.
But next morning, Edward looked unhappy. Gordon came clanking past, hissing rudely. Bless me, said the Fat Controller. What a noise. They all hiss me, sir, answered Edward. They say tender engines don't shunt.
Again, we're being very heavily steered towards feeling sorry for poor, lovely Edward, and angry at those nasty other engines for being mean to him. Just because he sold them out and undermined their campaign for fairer working conditions by siding with their autocratic boss.
And last night they said I have black wheels. I haven't, have I, sir?
Why? What have you got against black wheels, you racist?
No, Edward, you have nice blue ones and I'm proud of you. Tender engines do shunt. But all the same, we do need another tank engine here.
And with that, the Fat Controller heads to an engine workshop which appears to have been lifted straight from an ISIS hostage video.
At last he saw a smart little green engine with 4 wheels. That's the one, he thought. If I choose you, will you work hard?
Nah, can't be asked, mate.
Oh, sir, yes, sir. That's a good engine. I'll call you Percy. Yes, sir, thank you, sir, said Percy.
Gotta be honest, I never really liked Percy. His stories were generally the least interesting to me. And also his face and overall appearance I just found irrationally irritating.
Ugh, anyway, the Fat Controller brings Percy back to the island, leaving him in the care of his most trustworthy traitor.
Edward, he called, here's Percy. Will you show him everything?
Yeah, could you be a bit more specific with that instruction? Just it sounds like a workplace disciplinary suit waiting to happen.
Percy soon learned what he had to do, and they had a happy afternoon. Then Henry came by, hissing as usual. Sheesh! Went Percy. Henry jumped and ran back to the shed.
Ha! It's funny because he's a lazy and selfish troublemaker who's now also a coward. Aw, and look at how much fun they're having together at work. And look how miserable the engines who went on strike look in the background. Why would anybody want to be like those losers? Right, kids?
And so it is that the Fat Controller effectively suspends Gordon, Henry and James indefinitely, and tasks Thomas, Edward and Percy with running the entire line between them in the meantime, which, you know, sounds like a logistical impossibility, but there's a message they're determined to hammer home here, so we'll play along. So despite the adverse circumstances forced upon them by their self-centered and thoroughly inconsiderate colleagues, the three engines heroically soldier on, developing a warm camaraderie as they go, and rising to the challenge in a way that was clearly incredibly exciting and rewarding.
There were fewer trains, but the passengers didn't mind.
Speaking from many years of experience, I can very much promise you they absolutely fucking minded.
They knew the three other engines were having a lesson. Gordon, James and Henry were cold, lonely and miserable. They wished now they hadn't been so silly.
Yeah, children, it's really silly to go on strike or be unionised in any way. And also very naughty, and that's a bad thing. So the lesson here is don't be silly like these three silly engines. No one's indispensable, and not blindly obeying orders from above without question is deeply selfish and entitled. Strike action doesn't work, it'll just lead you to being replaced, forgotten about and left without a livelihood. I mean, sure, the Fat Controller did end up bringing in a new tank engine to help with the shunting work, thus the industrial action was actually 100% successful, but never mind that. The important lesson to take away from this is strikers bad, bosses good. Good, decent people trying their best in a difficult situation. Or, as I now see it with an older and wiser head on,
wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
You know, in recent years, during the various strikes staged by the RMT, I was always baffled by how so many ordinary working and lower middle class people got so easily duped in seeing Mick Lynch as the devil incarnate and seeing the rail bosses as the de facto good guys. But going back and watching this again, it suddenly makes perfect sense. It's because for the longest time, we in Britain were getting spoon-fed horseshit like this from being fresh out of the womb. Right, anyway, on to the next one. Ooh, promising episode title. If they mean properly, that might just make up for the last 5 minutes I just sat through.
But before we get to that...
At last the Fat Controller arrived. I hope you are sorry, he said, and understand that you are not so important after all. We have a new tank engine called Percy who helps pull coaches, and Thomas and Edward have worked the main line nicely. But I will let you out now if you promise to be good. Yes, sir, said the three engines, we will. That's right, but please remember that this no shunting nonsense must stop.
And with the resistance crushed and its three members back at work, Thomas, Edward the Scab, and Percy are rewarded with a day playing on the branch line.
Edward took some empty trucks to the quarry. Percy was left alone. He didn't mind that a bit. He liked watching trains and being cheeky to the other engines. Hurry, 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 he would call, and they got very cross.
Man, for a small blob of mucus with wheels and a face, he doesn't half have a chip on his shoulder.
Happily, though, that chip is about to get dipped, chewed and swallowed.
After a great deal of shunting, Percy was waiting for the signalman to set the point so that he could get back to the yard. He was eager to work, but was being rather careless and not paying attention. Edward had warned Percy, be careful on the main line, whistle to the signalman you are there. But Percy didn't remember to whistle, so the busy signalman forgot him.
Man, I envy that signalman.
Percy waited and waited. The points were still against him, so he couldn't move. Then he looked along the main line. Peep, peep! He whistled in horror.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs!
Rushing straight towards him was Gordon with the express. Oh, groaned Gordon. Get out of my way! Percy opened his eyes. Gordon had stopped with Percy's buffers a few inches from his own. But Percy had begun to move. I won't stay here. I'll run away, he puffed.
Okay, in Percy's defence, I'd probably shit myself and then leg it in this situation too.
And without his driver there to apply the brakes, Percy's powerless to do anything other than keep legging it, despite by this point being absolutely knackered.
I want to stop, he puffed. The man in the signal box saw Percy was in trouble, so kindly set the points.
I mean, you say kindly, but surely it would have been a gross dereliction of duty if he hadn't bothered.
Percy puffed wearily onto a nice empty siding, ending in a big bank of earth. He was too tired now to care where he went. I want to stop. I have stopped, he puffed thankfully. Never mind, Percy, said the workman as they dug him out. You shall have a drink and some coal, and then you'll feel better.
Aye, back in our day, that's all you'd get on Christmas Day, and we were bloody grateful for it.
Presently, Gordon arrived.
Ah, great. Just who Percy wants to see right now, I'm sure.
Well done, Percy. You started so quickly that you stopped a nasty accident.
Wait, what are you talking about? Percy didn't do shit. All he did was panic and make a run for it after you'd already stopped.
I'm sorry I was cheeky, said Percy. You were clever to stop.
You may say clever. I say properly built, competently operated and sufficiently wind resistant. In fact, speaking of build quality, why does Percy have an upturned pie casing for a dome? Wow, even the people who built him clearly couldn't have cared less about him if they couldn't be pissed to do that right. Craft a dome for Percy. No, I'll tell you what, I just had one of them free Bentos pies for lunch. Just use some of the leftover rubbish from that instead.
And with that, Gordon winches the skittish heap of discarded litter back onto the line.
Percy is still cheeky because he is that sort of engine.
An annoying bell end, you mean?
He's always most careful when he goes on the main line.
And things aren't about to get much better for the green engines of Sodor in the next episode either.
One morning, Henry was feeling very sorry for himself. Sometimes he could pull trains, but sometimes he felt he had no strength at all.
Man, you know shit's serious when the episode starts with the sad music. Can't help but feel Steven Spielberg missed a trick by not doing that at the start of Jaws.
One evening, Chrissy Watkins was feeling very sorry for herself. Sometimes she could avoid sharks, but sometimes she felt she had no ability to do so at all.
I suffered dreadfully, and no one cares. Rubbish, Henry, snorted James. You don't work hard enough.
Yeah, is anyone else with ADHD who wasn't diagnosed until well into adulthood feeling every word of this?
The Fat Controller spoke to him too. You're too expensive, Henry. You had lots of new parts and new paint too, but they've done you no good. If we can't make you better, we must get another engine instead of you. This made Henry, his driver, and his fireman very sad.
Not the Fat Controller, though, who said all that with a sinister, sadistic smile on his face. Still, good to know that his attitudes towards long-term in-work sickness and being an equal opportunities employer are exactly what you'd expect by this point in the series.
And the next morning, like a serial killer who likes to get close to his victims before doing them in, the Fat Controller changes into some overalls so he can take a ride in Henry's cabin.
Henry managed to start, but his fireman was not satisfied. Henry is a bad steamer, he said to the Fat Controller. I build up his fire, but it doesn't give enough heat. Henry tried very hard, but it was no good. He didn't have enough steam.
I mean, the fact that he can hear his own fireman slagging him off from inside his own cockpit can't be helping either.
Oh dear, thought Henry, I shall have to go away.
Oh, cheer up, mate. There's still every chance it won't come to that. I mean, you're not going to have the strength to be able to go away at this rate. Also, it's eerily ironic that it's Henry being plagued by these problems. I previously mentioned the Thomas the Tank Engine train set I had as a kid, and within that set, one of the engines permanently broke when one of its batteries leaked acid one time. Guess which engine it was? Yep, this guy. After that, the only story I could create for him was an alternate reality in which he was never released from the tunnel.
Anyway, I digress. For now, all Henry can do is get out of the way and leave his train to Edward, who seems to be suspiciously omnipresent and eager to take over when something goes wrong with any of his colleagues. But once there, Henry's fireman makes a potential diagnostic breakthrough.
The fact is the coal is wrong. We've had a poor lot lately, and today it's worse.
I'm not surprised. All the mines were getting closed down when this was first broadcast.
The other engines can manage. They have big fireboxes. Henry's is small and can't make the heat. With Welsh coal, he'd be a different engine. It's expensive, said the Fat Controller.
Yes, but it's bloody brilliant.
When the Welsh coal came, Henry's driver and fireman were excited. Now we'll show them, Henry, old fellow.
Or if not, maybe give Elvance a go.
They carefully made his fire, putting large lumps of coal like a wall round the outside. Then the glowing middle part was covered with smaller lumps. You're spoiling my fire, complained Henry. Wait and see, said the fireman. We'll have a roaring fire.
I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter.
Fortunately, the twisted fire starter was correct, and nor will strong ADHD medication be necessary, as the Welsh coal affords Henry one of the quickest and most drastic upturns in fortune in cartoon history.
Remove the stone of shame. Woohoo! Attach the stone of triumph.
They arrived early at the station. Thomas puffed in. Where have you been, lazybones? Asked Henry. Oh, I can't wait for dawdling tank engines like you. Goodbye.
Whoa, shoes on the other foot now, eh, Thomas?
Whoosh, said Thomas to Annie and Clarabel. Have you ever seen anything like it? Both Annie and Clarabel agreed that they never had.
What, a steam locomotive pulling a train out of a station? I'd have thought they'd be seeing that every day.
But regardless, having survived indefinite imprisonment in a tunnel, a bout of what I can only assume to be pneumonia resulting from said imprisonment, being indefinitely suspended for going on strike, and now just narrowly being spared his job thanks to the miracle of Welsh coal in just this first series alone, at long last,
Everything's coming up.
Henry. And I imagine it'll be nothing but good times and incident-free plain sailing for him for the foreseeable future.
And now, a word from our sponsors. And right from the off, we're quickly onboarded with what I can only describe as a sort of pictorial edition of an INCEL compilation album. Now that's what I call Victimhood, Volume 3, featuring all your favourite terminally single singles, including...
Name me one example, one time, where a woman has... Not me, you're gonna...
They're a target as well. Yeah. To be killed. Yeah.
Plus many, many more. Now that's what I call Victimhood Volume 3, the perfect gift for Mother's Day. Download link available at all good dark web forums now.
One winter evening, Henry's driver said, "We'll be out early tomorrow. We've got to take the Flying Kipper." Don't tell Gordon, but I think if we pull the Kipper nicely, the Fat Controller will let us pull the Express. The special coal they gave you is working well.
Not to mention it sent your singing ability through the roof.
Hurrah, cried Henry, that will be lovely.
But at what cost? At what cost?
All kinds of ships use the harbour at the big station by the sea. There are fishing boats also come here. They unload their fish on the quay. Some of it goes to shops in the town, and the rest in a special train to other places far away. This is the train the railwaymen call the Flying Kipper. Henry was ready at 5 o'clock. There was snow and frost.
Ugh, freezing cold, 5 in the morning. I can feel this situation through the screen and I don't like it. Still, this is bound to be as unpleasant as it gets. All onwards and upwards from here, eh?
And as the dawn slowly breaks, Henry's journey rumbles on without a hitch, and then they arrive at a seemingly routine signal over the viaduct.
His driver prepared to stop, but the home signal was down. All clear, Henry. Away we go. They couldn't know the points from the main line to a siding were frozen, and the home signal should have been set at danger, but snow had forced it down. A goods train was waiting in the siding to let the Flying Kipper pass.
Oh, ironic.
And the driver and fireman were drinking cocoa in the brake van. The Kipper is due, said the guard. Who cares, said the fireman. This is good cocoa.
Good enough to die for, is it?
The driver got up. Come on, fireman, back to our engine. They got out just in time.
So the driver and fireman left the brake van just in time, but I'm guessing the guard was still inside and killed instantly. So this, plus that episode of Faulty Towers, man, no wonder I haven't seen Kippers anywhere for many years. Their mere presence is absolutely lethal.
Henry's driver and fireman had jumped clear before the crash, but Henry lay dazed and surprised.
Now, I'll probably lose a lot of street cred for this admission, but child me found this face Henry's pulling here utterly terrifying. And on subsequent viewings, I had to cover my eyes with a pillow until the following scene.
The Fat Controller came to see him. The signal was down, sir, said Henry.
Actually, that face is still somewhat unnerving to me now, given what I've since come to learn about spotting the signs of a stroke.
Cheer up, Henry, it wasn't your fault. Ice and snow caused the accident.
I mean, it's good you're acknowledging Henry's not to blame, but what do you mean cheer up? He's just killed a man, for God's sake. Not everyone's an uncaring sociopath like you, Mr. Controller.
I'm sending you to Crewe, a fine place for sick engines.
Is it? No disrespect to the people of Crewe, but I've gigged there and passed through it a few times and it's got nothing. Nothing. I don't know what it was like 75 to 100 years ago, but these days it's basically the northwest answer to Swindon.
They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox. You'll feel a different engine and won't need special coal anymore. Won't that be nice? Yes, sir, said Henry doubtfully.
Oh, phew, I can get rid of this now.
And Henry needn't have been doubtful of the abilities of the crew, as his triumphant return sometime later leaves everyone completely bedazzled. Not least the show's continuity editor, who during these homecoming scenes uses footage of him in both his old and new shapes interchangeably.
I am sorry to say that a lot of little children are often late for school because they wait to see Henry go by.
Ah, that's how it all starts. One moment you're turning up late because you wanted to see a talking steam locomotive in action. The next you're smoking weed round the back of the bike sheds to fit in with the cool kids. And before you know it, you're a father of 3, each by different women by the age of 17. Slippery slope, man.
They often see him pulling the express. He does it so well that Gordon is jealous. But that's another story.
I'm imagining a locomotive version of Fatal Attraction with Gordon in the role of Glenn Close.
Gordon was cross.
Oh, here we go. That was quick.
Why should Henry have a new shape, he grumbled. A shape good enough for me is good enough for him. He goes gallivanting off to Crewe, leaving us to do his work, and comes back saying how happy he feels. It's disgraceful.
I mean, to be fair, overly cheerful people can sometimes get on my tits as well.
And there's another thing. Henry whistles too much. No respectable engine ever whistles loudly at stations. It isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. Poor Henry didn't feel happy anymore.
I'm not bloody surprised. Back at work, fresh out of rehab in Crewe of all places, and you're welcome back with a character assassination from your colleague.
Henry.
Alone! Please!
Anthropomorphic steam locomotive.
One that didn't even mention the innocent guard Henry splattered to death just one episode ago. Then again, given the Fat Controller's tyrannical indifference, I imagine he was forgotten about before what little remained of his body had even gone cold.
I just can't believe the temper's dead.
It's all right, Rick. we'll get another one.
Never mind, whispered Percy. I'm glad you're home again. I like your whistling.
Oh God, that makes it even worse. That's like being told you're a brilliant sitcom writer by Brendan O'Carroll.
Goodbye, Henry, called Gordon. We're glad to have you with us again, but remember what I said.
Yes, remember what I said. Absolutely no way I'll end up regretting those words later today.
And a short while later, Henry and Edward are having a friendly chat at the latter's station.
Shh, shh. Can you hear something? It sounds like Gordon, said Edward, and it ought to be Gordon. But Gordon never whistles like that. It was Gordon. He came rushing down the hill at a tremendous rate. He didn't look at Henry, and he didn't look at Edward. He screamed straight through the station and disappeared. Well, said Edward. It isn't wrong, chuckled Henry, but we just don't do it. And he told Edward what Gordon had said.
Yeah, he did say that, didn't he?
Meanwhile, Gordon screeched along the line. The noise was awful. At the station, everyone held their ears. The Fat Controller held his ears too. Take him away, he bellowed, and stop that noise. Gordon puffed sadly away.
Cheer up, Gordon, it could be worse. The last guy to blow a whistle this loudly on his bosses was murdered on the orders of Boeing shortly afterwards. Allegedly.
But he wouldn't stop whistling until two fitters climbed up and knocked his whistle valve in place.
Yeah, that's pretty much the level of sophistication I expected from Sodor's maintenance crew at this point. Broken, you say? Yeah, just hit it with a hammer until it's fixed.
It isn't wrong, murmured Henry to no one in particular, but we just don't do it.
Yeah, it loses something the second time around, I feel.
Nevertheless, with Gordon having been put back in his box, Henry is up and about the following day, eventually coming to a bridge with some schoolboys on it, who he doubtless presumes are skiving off just to see him in all his splendour. However...
Oh! He called. The boys didn't wave and take his number. They thought it fun to drop stones on him instead. They've broken our glass! They've broken our glass! Sobbed the coaches.
Yeah. In fact, one could say they gave you a real glass whooping.
The passengers weren't hurt, but they were cross. Call the police. No, said the driver. Leave it to Henry and me. What will you do, they asked.
We're going to take the law into our own hands and dole out some vigilante street justice on them sons of bitches.
Henry is going to sneeze at those boys. Lots of people were waiting at the station just before the bridge. They wanted to see what would happen. Henry has plenty of ashes, said the driver. Please keep all windows shut till we have passed the bridge. Henry is as excited as we are, aren't you, old fellow? Henry was feeling stuffed up. Soon they could see the boys, and they all had stones.
Well, they'll be more like pebbles, really. At least until they hit puberty.
Are you ready, Henry, said his driver. Sneeze hard when I tell you. Now, he said. Achoo-shoo!
Right, I admit I'm no medical expert. Probably the one thing RFK Jr. and I have in common, that. But blasting the young miscreants with steam and ash, wouldn't that, you know, scald them? As in, potentially to the point of a lengthy stay in hospital and several months of skin grafts.
Henry went home very pleased with himself.
Well, who wouldn't be, after brazenly inflicting grievous bodily harm on a trio of unruly preteens?
He had taught Gordon and silly boys a lesson, with a whistle and a sneeze.
Yeah, there's a whimsical message we can take away from this and apply to the real world. If you fall victim to an act of petty vandalism at the hands of some wayward children, don't report them to the police. Burn them.
And with that story arc wrapped up, it's time to move away from the gay and carefree endeavour of wantonly maiming kids and introduce another new character or two.
Okay, do you mean Stout in the portly more to love sense or the Guinness guzzling raging alky sense? Jesus fucking Christ, that's the squarest thing I've ever seen.
Toby is a tram engine. He has cow catchers and side plates and doesn't look like a steam engine at all.
No, he looks like a steam engine that's been towed away and crushed into a fucking cube.
He takes trucks from farms and villages to the main line and is cheerful to everyone he meets.
Like who? There's nobody fucking there.
He has a coach called Henrietta, who has seen better days.
Yeah, do you get the impression the Reverend Awdry came up with that name quite late in the evening and several leftover communion wines in? Yeah, Henrietta. Yeah, fuck it, that'll do. Right, I'll just go have a fag and a wank and then go to bed.
It's not fair at all, she grumbles, remembering that she used to be full and 9 trucks would rattle behind her. Now there are only 3 or 4, but the farms and factories send their goods mostly by lorry. Toby is always careful. The cars, buses and lorries often have accidents. Toby hasn't had an accident for years.
I mean, what accident could he realistically have? His top speed seems to be about 15 miles an hour.
A lady and a stout gentleman stood on Toby's platform. He was, of course, the Fat Controller, but Toby didn't know this yet.
Ah, so the eponymous stout gentleman is the Fat Controller. Alright then, sod the tactful diplomatic terminology. I'm going to be calling this episode Toby and the Fat Fuck from now on.
And it's at this point we get our initial introduction to the Fat Fuck's family.
Come on, Grandfather, cried the children. Do look at this engine. That's a tram engine, Stephen, said the Fat Controller. Is it electric? Asked Bridget.
Ah yes, the Fat Controller's grandchildren, Stephen and Bridget Controller.
Hush, hissed Toby. Shh, shh, said her brother. You've offended him. But trams are electric, aren't they? They are mostly, but this is a steam tram. May we go in it, Grandfather? Please? Stop, said the Fat Controller to the guard. They all scrambled into Henrietta. Hip, hip, hooray, chanted Henrietta. But Toby did not sing. Electric indeed. Electric indeed, he snorted.
Yeah, down with renewables and your global warming scam. Fossil fuels all the way. Woo! Drill, baby, drill.
But despite his granddaughter's initial faux pas of accusing Toby of being environmentally friendly, the Fat Controller and his family have a wonderful afternoon and part on good terms. And afterwards, it becomes evident listening to Toby that the admiration is mutual.
This gentleman, he thought, is a gentleman who knows how to speak to engines.
Oh, Toby, no, mate. This is what all abusers do. Make you feel special at first, get you to trust them, and before you know it, you're living in fear, isolation, total dependence on them and feeling utterly worthless. Don't fall for his charms, it's a trap.
The children came every day for a fortnight. Sometimes they rode with the guard, sometimes in empty trucks.
God knows what kind of sick operation he's running.
And when the time comes for the Controller family to leave, quite possibly due to the Stockholm Syndrome, everyone involved does a big sad. Or at least in Toby's case, a stagehand haphazardly dabbed some water around his eyes to simulate crying, but their time together does end on a note of optimism, with the Controller clan promising to visit again soon. Unfortunately though, the market decides to keep fucking Toby over in the ensuing months, until the railway itself can survive no longer.
Our last day, Toby, said his driver one morning. The manager says we must close tomorrow. That day, everyone wanted the chance of a last ride.
Oh yeah, now they all turn up. Those flaky pricks deserve a last ride, alright.
Goodbye, Toby, said the passengers afterwards. We are sorry your line is closing down.
Yeah, it'll be really sad thinking of you all alone and rusting away in a shed for the rest of time. But in time, I'm sure we'll come to terms with it. Life goes on after all. I mean, not so much for you. You're never even going to see daylight again after today. But yeah, thanks for everything, bud.
And with the last business concluded and final goodbyes said, Toby's driver and fireman lock him away in his shed/eventual tomb.
Next morning, the shed was flung open, and he woke with a start to see his driver waving a piece of paper. "Wake up, Toby," they shouted, "and listen to this. It's a letter from
the bank. It turns out that if I switch from a fixed rate ISA to a flex instant saver, I can earn an extra 2.3% on my savings per annum. I was so excited, but I just had to come and tell you.
The stout gentleman. Toby listened and... But I mustn't tell you any more, or I shall spoil the next story.
Well, I might as well spoil it instead, seeing as I'm pretty sure we've all put 2 and 2 together anyway. The Fat Controller's bringing Toby in as his number 7, presumably at something of a bargain price too, thus making Toby Sodor's Eric Cantona.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea.
Although, as we'll come to learn in the next story, Toby isn't being brought in out of charity or sentimentality. And although the plots from many of the episodes so far read like something a climaxing Margaret Thatcher might have screamed during a spit roasting from Ronald Reagan, General Pinochet and/or Norman Tebbit, the moral conflict here will be presented with a bit more political ambiguity. Sort of. And we begin with Thomas heading towards the quarry via a track that runs alongside the road, as Ringo goes out of his way to reassure us that Thomas is always careful to whistle a warning of his presence.
Early one morning, a large policeman was sitting close to the line. Thomas liked policemen. He had been a great friend of the constable who had just retired.
Dirty, filthy grass.
Peep, peep, he whistled, "Good morning." Thomas expected that the new constable would be friendly too, but was sorry to see that he didn't look friendly at all. He was red in the face and very cross.
Ah, a heavy drinker then. Yeah, that would explain it.
"Disgraceful," he spluttered. "I didn't sleep a wink last night."
Yeah, insomnia and the delirium tremens often go hand in hand.
A policeman pointed to Thomas. "Where's your cowcatcher?" he asked. "But I don't catch cows, sir." "Don't be funny," snapped the policeman. He looked at Thomas's wheels. No side plates either, and he wrote in his notebook, "Engines going on public roads must have their wheels covered and a cowcatcher in front to protect people and animals from being dragged under the wheels if they stray onto the line. You haven't, so you are dangerous."
Yeah, crushing a guard to death in his van or deliberately steaming children alive is one thing, but running anyone over is where Sodor 5-0 draw the line.
And Thomas's driver's protests about having never had an accident in the hundreds of times they've passed through only fans the flames further.
"That makes it worse," the policeman answered. He wrote "regular lawbreaker" in his book. Thomas puffed sadly away.
Yeah, like the common criminal that he is. But yeah, given how heavily this series has leaned to the right up to this point, it's surprising it should suddenly turn on the police like this.
The Fat Controller was having breakfast. He was eating toast and marmalade. The butler came in. "Excuse me, sir, you are wanted on the telephone." "Bother that telephone," said the Fat Controller. "I'm sorry, my dear," he said to his wife. "Thomas is in trouble with the police, and I must go at once."
You stay here and do all the traditional wife things, and have my tea ready for me when I get home.
Dangerous to the public, indeed. We'll see about that. The Fat Controller spoke to the policeman. But however much he argued with him, it was no good. "The law is the law," he said, "and we can't change it." The Fat Controller felt exhausted. "I'm sorry, driver," he said. "It's no use arguing with policemen. We will have to make those cowcatcher things for Thomas, I suppose."
Or at least this sudden targeting of the police would be surprising if it was centered around abuse of power, police brutality, corruption, institutional racism and sexism, etc. But no, it's about those damn, overreaching and frankly Marxist health and safety regulations, and how cruelly and inhumanely they affect the profit margins of these downtrodden and defenceless business tycoons. Yep, now it all makes sense.
But wouldn't you know it? The sudden need for an engine with cowcatchers soon gives the Fat Controller a better idea. And a few days later, previously obsolete Steam Cube Toby arrives on Sodor, along with the elderly and half-arsedly named Henrietta.
"That's a good engine," said the Fat Controller. "I see you've brought your coach, Henrietta." "You don't mind, do you, sir?" asked Toby. The station master wanted to use her as a hen house, and that would never do. No, indeed, said the Fat Controller. We couldn't allow that.
Absolutely not. A hen house? You mean...
Chickens.
And with such a miserable fate averted, Toby straight away sets about getting his cowcatcher-covered wheels under the proverbial table.
Toby made the silly trucks behave even better than Thomas did.
Oi, you!
At first, Thomas was jealous, but he was so pleased when Toby rang his bell and frightened the policeman, they've been firm friends ever since.
Yeah, nothing like some wholesome bonding over victimising a copper. Reminds me of that heartwarming scene in Reservoir Dogs. So yeah, moral of this story...
Toby and Henrietta are enjoying their new job on the island of Sodor, but they do look old-fashioned and need new paint. James was very rude whenever he saw them. Ugh, what dirty objects, he would say. At last, Toby lost patience. James, he asked, why are you red?
Alcoholism, answered James.
I am a splendid engine, answered James. Ready for anything. You never see my paint dirty. Oh, said Toby innocently, that's why you once needed bootlaces, to be ready, I suppose. James went redder than ever and snorted off. It was such an insult to be reminded of the time a bootlace had been used to mend a hole in his coaches.
Well, yeah, but just because there was a hole in one of them doesn't mean they weren't spotlessly clean.
And at the end of this journey, a still seething James offloads his coaches and sets about collecting his next train, which much to his further chagrin is a long, slow goods train.
Dirty trucks from dirty sidings. Blech.
Okay, I'm not sure why James is suddenly a clean freak and obsessive germaphobe, but I guess they were just throwing in whatever random shit they could think of to fulfill the episode quota at this late stage in the series.
Still, at least this episode is unlikely to feature in further evidence that the Awdrys were starting to run out of ideas.
At first, the trucks behaved well, but James bumped them so crossly that they were determined to pay him back. Presently, they approached the top of Gordon's Hill. Heavy goods trains halt here to pin down their brakes. James had had an accident with trucks before and should have remembered this. Wait, James, wait, said the driver, but James wouldn't wait. He was too busy thinking what he would say to Toby when they next met. The truck's chance had come. Hurrah, hurrah, they laughed, and banging their buffers, they pushed him down the hill. On, yelled the trucks. I've got to stop, I've got to stop, groaned James.
Apart from doing a carbon copy of an earlier story, and with the same character, that is.
To the station they thundered. Disaster lay ahead.
Actually, that's not fair. This time was totally different because James was being a twat and he crashed into some tar wagons instead of a cow's arse.
Something sticky splashed all over James.
Oh well, at least he got a free bukkake out of it.
He had run into 2 tar wagons and was black from smoke box to cab.
Man, even kids' shows of this era thought nothing of getting their main characters to black up.
Toby and Percy were sent to help and came as quickly as they could. Look here, Percy, exclaimed Toby. Whatever is that dirty object? That's James, didn't you know? It's James's shape, said Toby. But James is a splendid red engine, and you never see his paint dirty. James pretended he hadn't heard.
Yeah, I tried to make some preliminary notes when writing this bit, hoping to make some biting observation about the lackadaisical and somewhat toxic attitude towards serious workplace accidents that seems to be woven into the cultural fabric of the Fat Controller's Railway. But all I could scribble down was, I hate Percy, over and over again.
But nevertheless, Percy and Toby clear away the wreckage before helping James back to the yard, where the dictator for life who presides over this increasingly distrustful, dangerous and deadly empire of dirt is waiting to meet them.
Well done, Percy and Toby. He turned to James. Fancy letting your trucks run away. I am surprised. You're not fit to be seen. You must be cleaned at once. Toby shall have a new coat of paint. Please, sir, can Henrietta have one too, said Toby. Certainly, Toby. Oh, thank you, sir. She will be pleased. All James could do was watch Toby as he ran off happily with the news.
Although aesthetically speaking, James would prove to be the most influential in the long run, as many years later, his look here would be copied by Rudy Giuliani.
Gordon was resting in a siding. Sometimes, he thought, it's really tiring to be such a large and splendid engine. One does have to keep up appearances, so...
Feels like I've just accidentally tuned into Bono's internal monologue.
Beep, 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 beep. Hello, fat face, whistled Henry. What cheeks, spluttered Gordon. That Henry is too big for his wheels. Fancy speaking to me like that. Me, who has never had an accident.
Okay, episode called Off the Rails. Gordon already going on about having never had an accident. I wonder where this could be headed.
Aren't jammed whistles and burst safety valves accidents? Asked Percy innocently.
Oh, fuck off, Percy.
No, indeed. High spirits might happen to any engine. But to come off the rails like Henry did, well, I ask you, is it right? Is it decent? Then it was Henry's turn to take the express. Gordon watched him getting ready. Be careful, Henry. You're not pulling the Flying Kipper now. Mind you keep on the rails today.
Yeah, it's safe to say that during this first series, they hadn't exactly mastered the art of keeping the audience guessing or in suspense yet.
Henry went off in a huff.
Typical. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. So many characters in this thing are starting to seem like prototypes of Nigel Farage.
And Gordon yawned and went to sleep. But not for long. Wake up, Gordon, said his driver. Time to die!
Not quite. Instead, Gordon's driver informs him that they're to pull a special goods train that's come in, which obviously leads to the big blue engine being absolutely delighted.
Trucks, said Gordon. Puh.
And although his fire is slow to start, thus requiring Edward's help to get going, Gordon can barely contain his excitement for the journey ahead.
I won't go, grumbled Gordon. At last Gordon was on the turntable. The movement had shaken his fire. It was now burning nicely and making steam. Gordon was cross and didn't care what he did. He waited till the table was halfway round. I'll show them, he hissed. He moved slowly forward to jam the table, but he couldn't stop himself and slithered into a ditch. Oh, she hissed. Get me out! Get me out!
Pretty sure they borrowed this scene from something else as well.
Not a hope, said his driver and fireman. You're stuck, you silly great engine. Don't you understand that?
And Gordon's predicament is consolidated when the Fat Controller learns what happened, ordering Edward to take the special train instead, and to leave the Big G where he is. And then, the RMS Gordanic's day somehow gets even worse.
On the other side of the ditch, some little boys were chattering. Coo, doesn't he look silly? They'll never get him out. They began to sing. Silly old Gordon fell in a ditch, fell in a ditch, fell in a ditch. Silly old Gordon fell in a ditch, all on a Monday morning.
I'm even going to let Ringo sing a couple. But I'm shit at singing.
Oh, I know. Gordon lay in the ditch all day. Oh dear, he thought, I shall never get out.
I mean, you could take this opportunity to retrain for a career as a hippo, then you'll be laughing.
But instead, come nightfall, the intricate rescue mission gets underway.
Yeah, not to disparage this workman's skills or anything, but I don't think a perfectly executed sliding tackle is really going to help in this situation.
Late that night, Gordon crawled home, a sadder and wiser engine.
Well, that's not the full story, is it? He's a wetter and muddier engine too.
One day, Thomas was at the junction when Gordon shuffled in with some trucks. Phew, remarked Thomas. What a funny smell. Can you smell a smell? I can't smell a smell, said Annie. A funny, musty sort of smell, said Thomas.
Probably just some mould growing on the asbestos in your brakes. Nothing to worry about at this point in the 20th century.
No one noticed it till you did, grunted Gordon. It must be yours.
Thomas farted. That's so disgusting.
Annie, Clarabelle, do you know what I think it is? It's ditch water.
Alright, yeah, that's where he was going with it. Yeah, it seems like a very long time ago now, but does anyone remember the last line from the very first episode?
He went home very slowly and was careful afterwards never to be cheeky to Gordon again.
Tess says you're a liar, pal.
Annie and Clarabelle could hardly believe their ears. He's dreadfully rude. I feel quite ashamed. I feel quite ashamed. He's dreadfully rude. And to Thomas they said, you mustn't be rude. You make us ashamed.
Of course, because they are ladies, and you must never use such vulgarities in the presence of a lady due to how delicate and sensitive they are.
And having shamelessly violated the social code of conduct of the 1950s, Thomas sets about achieving a more timeless level of bellendry by continuing to laugh at his own joke, several hours after telling it.
That was funny, he chuckled.
I mean, it wasn't that funny, if I'm honest. Can't see you winning many roast battles with it, put it that way.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He felt very pleased with himself. Annie and Clarabelle were deeply shocked.
So shocked that they immediately fainted in their petticoats and had to be revived with smelling salts by a kind and handsome doctor.
And with that, Thomas leaves Annie and Clarabelle to recuperate and heads off to an old lead mine to find some trucks.
Long ago, miners digging for lead had made tunnels under the ground. Their roofs are strong enough to hold up trucks, but not the weight of engines. A large notice warns them not to enter the area. Danger! Engines must not pass this board.
Yeah, seems straightforward enough. What sort of colossal half-wit would have any issues with that?
Silly old board, thought Thomas. He had often tried to pass it, but had never succeeded. But this morning he had made a plan.
Alright, of course.
The fireman went to turn the points. Now for my plan, thought Thomas. Pumping the trucks fiercely, he jerked his driver off the footplate and followed them into the siding. Come back, yelled his driver. Fire and smoke, said Thomas. I am sunk. And he was.
Brilliant. Genius.
Oh dear, he said. I am a silly engine.
I mean, in your defense, your plan did work, so there's that.
And a very naughty one, too. I saw you, said the Fat Controller.
Hang on, what the fuck was the Fat Controller doing there? I'm already getting burgeoning psychopathy vibes from the guy, and now he's randomly skulking around a semi-abandoned lead mine in the middle of a workday.
Please get me out. I won't be naughty again. I'm not sure. We can't lift you out with a crane. The ground's not firm enough.
And how would you know, Topham? How many people have you buried here over the years?
Let me see. I wonder if Gordon could pull you out. Yes, sir, said Thomas. But he didn't want to meet Gordon just yet.
Right, yeah. Because he stinks of ditch water. I get it.
And upon hearing the news, an amused but malodorous Gordon rushes to Thomas's aid.
Strong cables were fastened between the two engines. Are you ready? Heave! It was a lot harder than they all thought, but at last Thomas was free. I'm sorry I was cheeky, said Thomas. That's all right, Thomas. You made me laugh, replied Gordon.
No, he didn't, you fucking liar. Don't pretend you were a good sport about it all along. You look like you wanted the ground to open up and swallow you. Which is ironically what ended up happening to Thomas instead. So yeah, 1-1, but don't stand there trying to rewrite history, you big blue bitch.
I'm in disgrace. So am I, said Thomas. Why, so you are, Thomas. Shall we form an alliance? You help me, and I'll help you. Right you are, agreed Thomas. Good, that's settled, rumbled Gordon. And buffer to buffer, the Allies puffed home.
Ooh, sounds like the beginning of a union to me. I mean, nothing will materialise, obviously, but we can dream.
And so we've made it to the final episode of Series 1.
It's been a long time coming.
Which just so happens to be Thomas the Tank Engine's inaugural Christmas episode. And that means, like any other Christmas special, it'll either be a landmark televisual game changer from beginning to end, or an utterly forgettable waste of time in which virtually nothing of note happens. Let's find out which one this will be.
It was Christmas on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard.
Obviously. The Fat Controller was hardly going to give anyone any time off over Christmas, was he?
Everyone was happy.
Were they though? Really?
Only the coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, were complaining. It's always the same before Christmas, they groaned. We feel so full, we feel so full.
Yep, that's what happens when you spend the whole week stuffing your face with Quality Street.
By the side of the track was a lonely little cottage with a familiar figure waving to them. It's Mrs. Kindly, whistled Thomas.
Who has to be named that way just to make sure no one misses the central plot point that this woman is very kind.
Peep, peep, happy Christmas! Thomas always felt better for seeing her. Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Mrs. Kindly.
Thomas much preferred her to the cottage's previous occupant, Mrs. Cantankerous Old Bastardly.
Shortly afterwards, Thomas arrives back at the shed to find everyone else but him has been painted. However, Thomas isn't worried about that right now, as apparently there's a major anniversary coming up.
The birth of the baby Jesus, of course.
But, in addition to that one...
Do you realise it's a whole year since Mrs. Kindly saved us from a nasty accident? You remember?
That's strange, sir. I don't have any recollection of that at all.
Yes, of course, interrupted Edward. You told us how she waved her red dressing gown out of her window to warn you about a landslide ahead.
Yeah, are you absolutely certain that wasn't her signalling to the milkman that her husband had just gone out and the coast was clear?
What, said James and Henry together. The rest of us have never thanked her properly. Exactly, said Thomas. So now I think we should all give her a special Christmas party.
Yes, Mrs. Kindly. We've thrown you this party to say thank you for accidentally saving our lives with your passionate and promiscuous philandering.
However, as the party planning gets underway and the excitement grows, the Fat Controller arrives with the news that events have taken a sinister turn.
The weather's changed badly. Mrs. Kindly is snowed up. Toby says he'll help to rescue her. You must help too, Thomas. There's no party unless you do. Thomas hated snow, but he said bravely, I'll try, sir. We must rescue her. We must.
You gotta fight for your right to party!
Thomas charged the snowdrifts fiercely. Sometimes he swept them aside, sometimes they stuck fast, and the men had to loosen them.
Nice to see the editing team refuse to cut corners and definitely didn't reuse any old stills from a previous episode here or anything.
And speaking of prior episodes, when Thomas and Toby arrive at an impenetrable impasse outside Mrs. Kindly's love shack, a familiar face makes his grand return.
That's Terence, said Thomas. He's come to help too. Sure enough, Terence had a snowplow and was working hard to clear a path to the railway line in safety.
Yeah, as I can attest from my music scene days, many of the very best parties are preceded by the shifting of vast quantities of snow.
At long last, the rescue was complete. Percy took the tired workmen home. Terence said goodbye to Mrs. Kindly and promised to take care of her cottage.
The fuck's he gonna do? Feed her goldfish? I know he means well, but surely a tractor can't be the most practical choice for a house sitter.
And to muddy things further, when Thomas and Toby arrive back at the shed with Mrs. Kindly, It appears as though everyone else has already fucked off to bed.
Suddenly, all the lights went on. What a marvelous sight awaited Mrs. Kindly.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Well done, said the Fat Controller. I'm really proud of you all. Mrs. Kindly especially thanked the smaller engines. Thomas and Toby are all friends, she said. And now, Percy, you are my friend too. Percy was very pleased.
Man, am I the only one who can see through this putrid green prick?
3 cheers for Mrs. Kindly, he called. Peep, peep, peep. They all whistled.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends thought it was the best Christmas ever, and Mrs. Kindly could think of nowhere she would rather live than here with them on the island of Sodor.
And throughout the night, in true Christmas party fashion, the Fat Controller slipped a disc in his back while attempting to photocopy his own arse. A couple of other attendees threw up on Bertie the bus during the ride home, and an animalistically horny Mrs. Kindly copped off with Thomas's guard round the back of the shed. I mean, how could she not, after all?
He was very hot.
So yeah, not exactly the most unforgettable festive episode, but far from the worst thing you're ever likely to see on telly at Christmas either. Which brings us to the end of Thomas the Tank Engine's debut series, and yeah, many food for thought. Hits rather differently now than it did on first viewing around 30 years ago. But yeah, thank you so much for watching up to this point. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, etc. It really helps the channel grow, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll get to work writing a review for Series 2 if and when this video gets a certain number of likes.
But I'm not going to tell you when.
So the only way you can ensure you end up getting that video is by hitting that like button. Do it. Do it now.
And also check out my other video I alluded to earlier, in which I review Channel 4's Secret World of INCELs documentary from 2022. It's infuriatingly copyright blocked in the UK and Ireland, so I'll put the coffee link in the description. However, do try to watch it on YouTube through a VPN or other means if you can, because, you know, the algorithm. Plus, with the recent disturbing revelations about the so-called Rape Academy, I'd say it's more important than ever for any piece ripping the manosphere to shreds to be as visible as possible.
And once again, thanks for stopping by. I hope this video was as fun for you to watch as it was for me to make. And seeing as their fates were never mentioned again during the actual series, I think it's only right that we end the video on a touching tribute to those we lost along the way.
James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. You have a leather bootlace there, I see, sir, said the guard to a smartly dressed man. Please give it to me. I won't, said the man. How did the fish get there, driver? We must have fished them from the river with our bucket. Thomas was jealous, but he was so pleased when Toby rang his bell and frightened the policeman. They've been firm friends ever since. Oh dear, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas. Terence said goodbye to Mrs. Kindly and promised to take care of her cottage. And a very naughty one too. I saw you, said the Fat Controller.